Well, today we'll take a dive into the gaming industry. Yes, Africa's gaming industry generated $1 billion in revenue in 2024. Well, that's according to the 2025 Africa Games Industry Report published by KPMG in collaboration with Maliyo Games, highlighting efforts to digitize African culture through gaming. The collaboration aims to improve the gaming industry in Nigeria by incorporating African culture into digital games. Nigeria is Africa's fastest growing gaming market, with revenue reaching $185 million in 2022. The country is positioned to play a central role in the continent's gaming industry. And the same report, provides insight into the market evolution over the last 12 to 18 months. Mr. Lawrence Amadi, partner, tech advisory, KPMG Nigeria, speaking during the launch of this report at KPMG Tower in Lagos recently, captured key developments in the industry and how gaming could be tailored to reflect African culture. He's live in the studio. We have Mr. Lawrence Amadi, who I'm going to be talking to now. He's a partner, tech advisory at KPMG. Mr. Amadi, thank you so much for coming on Business Nigeria. So it's your first time here. We appreciate you coming.
I must actually say, very lovely studio. And, you know, yeah, you're doing a great job. So thank you, Tolu, for having me.
Thank you so much. It's good to have you at this. Well, let's start our conversation. In that report, I took my time to read that report. Sure. Very interesting report. A lot of work done in that report. And the gaming industry continues to break records, of course, with revenue surpassing $187 billion in that report in 2024. Can you player base of 3.42 billion? That's no joke. Sure. Globally. Tell us more about this.
So really good question. I must actually say the journey, and if you look at the gaming industry, it's fast become one of the biggest pastime for people. If you're going to the airport, if you're sitting at a park watching over your kids, you know, Candy Crush is one of those games that people will stay and they keep busy with. So in pulling this report together, there are about 4 big game jams that happen every year.
Okay.
We sort of had Maliyo feature at 2 of those game jams last year, one in San Francisco and the other one in Cologne, Germany. We pulled together nearly about 8,000 plus respondents who had to actually share inputs, you know, and these guys are, you know, quite active, you know, as developers in the gaming industry, you know, active users, sponsors and the likes. So these numbers have come from them. Just to talk a bit about the dimension and how we saw the trajectory.
Okay. The
US and China contribute joint 49%. Of the entire 187 billion. The 187 billion figure, $187 billion figure is a 2% plus year-on-year growth from 2023 to 2024. And you can actually see that a lot more, you know, Gen Alphas are also beginning to sign up, because initially we're talking about Gen Zs, you know, who are going to dominate, but kids are also signing up. And, you know, we have a lot of kids today who play Roblox, you know, and they're super active on it. They get super addicted to it, you know, and I think that's why the growth will keep coming.
Interesting stuff. Now, you're speaking to the revenue market and especially the impact on US and China. Tell us more about this as it affects the global games market.
So when you look at the big players in the US, Enterprise Arts, probably the biggest player, EA, and you know, we all know EA Sports and how they're pushing a massive gaming agenda today. Activision Blizzard, the guys who developed Call of Duty, you know, also quite big. And you know, when you look at the gaming market, it's always usually shaped around what excites people.
True.
So sports in the US, war, you know, amongst other things, where you have to be the good guy killing the bad guy. And people get really addicted. Maybe the more bad guys you kill, the better you feel mentally. You know, so that's the sort of principle. But I must actually move to Asia Pacific and say they are number 1 today in the world, because Tencent, really big, Sony, really big, PlayStation. Again, you all know people want to play against themselves, across borders.
Yeah.
Really big. So all of those impact. I think Asia Pacific will continue to dominate, I guess for two reasons. One, the price point helps them. Two, I mean, if you bring China and you look at the population, it's massive.
Yeah.
And three, India is also fast growing in the space. And they have companies today who are now sort of starting to manufacture game consoles in India. So there's a big direction flow also just coming out of Asia Pacific.
In that same report, we see impressive growth in Africa. I saw that, and I think South Africa is leading and all of that. What does it mean for Nigeria? Because it's a fast-growing market in that same report, looking at it with revenue of about $185 million in 2022. Can we do better? What are the contending issues?
Okay, so really good question. South Africa, number one,
yeah.
for obvious reasons. They're like the Europe in
Africa.
They're also quite
Africa.
Cosmopolitan in nature.
Yeah, true.
It doesn't rule out the likes of Egypt or Algeria, who are also doing really good numbers, but they tend to align with Middle East a lot. So, and Middle East influences a lot of the things they do. So, but Nigeria's numbers certainly is going to keep getting better. The way I would also say this would be, we are seeing that we are building custom games, trying to inculcate some of the things that we know into our kids here. So Crazy Ludo is one of the games on Maliyo's website. What King is one of the games. There's the Downfall game that they've created. There's the Safari game. So if you look at the type of games they're creating games that we can relate with. Yeah. I know you and I may have entered Molue and the likes growing up. Most of our kids today haven't. At all. But if we tell them the story, they've got to sort of find a way to connect. I get that. Oshodi to Yaba, I get that. How do you want to navigate that? How do you want to pay? And I think it's just having them experience what we lived and say, look, okay, put this in games and have them enjoy the game. I must talk about Iwaju. Okay. So Maliyo built Iwaju for Disney. Iwaju is a cooking game. It's modeled after cooking, cooking jollof rice, cooking fried rice and the likes. And kids will get excited, in putting condiments together and making this game and getting excited about making a dish. And, and I guess the excitement will be, I've got to move from being a basic beginner chef to being a master chef. So those are the things that just sort of
reality into all of this.
Of course, 100%.
That really makes so much sense. But the gaming industry is also grappling with rapid development issues, of course, technology. It comes with opportunities and challenges, reading through all of this. And that also poses a financial burden for game studios, because all of this is not just a small investment. Correct. If we really to look at it critically. Now, how would you react to this? And how can we possibly attract the needed investment into the gaming industry to drive, these projections that we expect? So
I think I'd say the report we collaborated with Maliyo on is a first start. Okay. This is the first time we're collaborating with, a game studio in Nigeria. We think we have to start putting out the word today. We've seen investments like the iDice, with Bank of Industry, AFDB, Afrexim behind, the iDice investments, just investments supporting creatives. Those investments have to start looking at the gaming industry because it has come to stay. We all know how even we see parents incentivize children, with games, kids naturally default to playing games. Adults are playing the same games. I can tell you, if you talk to 10 adults in Nigeria, about 4 or 5 of them will have Candy Crush on their phones. And for pastimes, they would do this. So it's important to then start pushing this word. Private equity, both foreign and local, have to start also looking at how they start supporting, the gaming industry. Because if they do, we start creating a whole new ecosystem for us. In the last 5 years, the fintechs have received the most funding in Nigeria. True.
True.
It's about time we then start saying to ourselves, how do we also, enable this other sector that can start growing? I must give an example. Recently, I was watching an Premier League on Super Sports 3. We all watch the regular Chelsea, Man U, Liverpool, but now you have individuals who represent these teams, who are playing these games, on massive screens, and you have 10,000, 15,000 people watching them. Stamford Bridge will sit 40,000 plus people. Old Trafford is sitting 60-something thousand people. We are going to get to a stage where you're going to have that same stadium complement who watch live games seated watching the e-games being played. Yeah.
Wow, that would be such an interesting one too.
Already happening.
Wow.
We're getting 10,000 plus people already watching live games today. So that trend is going to keep growing.
A little bit away from the report. During the week, I stumbled on this report about nearly 80% of video employees are millionaires. It sounds so good.
Yeah.
Half of them worth over $25 million US. And of course, digging deep, it has to do with the stocks skyrocketing to about 3,776% or something. But my question is, how would you react to this, looking at the entire, how it affects their work timing and all of that?
So I will talk a bit about NVIDIA and then get into this story. So NVIDIA, they are known for GPUs.
Yeah.
Graphical processing units. And you need these GPUs for the smart cars, smart homes, Internet of Things. And they're literally everywhere. It's like having the SIM card, the traditional SIM card before we had the eSIMs. So they build chips primarily, and these chips, you do a lot of programming with them or leveraging them. When NVIDIA started, I guess people spoke about the work culture. They said, look, these guys are slave drivers, they're pushing people too hard. They have shifts that may start at 12 midnight or 2 a.m., where if you are not a morning person, you can have your luxury sleep and then you work in the afternoon into the midnight and vice versa. So I think the few people who keyed into the vision and the philosophy, for NVIDIA are the benefactors today. And that's why they're so rich, because they were rewarded with some stocks at the time. Before they showed up, Intel, another American chip company, was leading the market. And these guys have come, they've disrupted it significantly. Big presence in China, in Taiwan, Silicon Valley. And these guys are here to stay. So the bets they took, and I guess when I saw this report, right, what came to mind was some Gen Zs today, they don't want to put in long hours because they're constantly talking about mental health, soft life. They want to go easy. But the reality is, if you want to live soft life, you got to work hard, basically. Yeah. So brace up. Brace up.
So it's a good one for these guys.
It's a good one for the NVIDIA employees, for sure.
Very, very sweet report there. Now, back again to the gaming report. The African games industry now in focus is increasingly supported by initiatives designed, of course, to nurture talent and accelerate growth across the continent. But do you think this really is a reality, considering your findings putting together this report?
Absolutely. I believe this. I think this is a direction and is a reality that is facing us. We organize a couple of, hackathons as KPMG. And we sort of find talents. We have them solve real-life problems. We see a lot of these events done by the banks, done by a lot of players in the market. And I tell people, the game industry in Nigeria, today, you probably want to just look back and say, in 1996, 1997, what songs did we listen to? Who was dominating it? It was the R. Kellys, the 112s. We listened to foreign music largely.
True.
But then the Plantation Boys, Reminisce, they all started showing up gradually. And, kudos to these guys, Idris Abdul Karim, Two-Face, and co. They paved the way for the Burna Boys, Wizkid, and Davidos that we have today.
That's true.
If you go anywhere in the world, the music being played is predominantly the Afrobeat. in 1996, Afrobeat wasn't existing. So what that tells us is you are going to keep seeing the international community who say to themselves, oh, I've been on that safari in Africa. Why not I just download and play the safari game, you know, just to relive the experience? You're going to have guys who say to themselves, you know, when I went to Lekki Conservation Center, this is what I liked about Nigeria, this is what I, you know, and those guys, you know, the game appeal that we're creating today will start appealing to these guys. Africa has done $1 billion in total revenue in 2024. Most of it were revenues that actually went out because we're playing these foreign games. But the shift we're going to start seeing increasingly are the Africa-built games being played by the rest of the world.
That would also be very interesting. So finally, what will now be your outlook as you continue to, you know, put documents together and prepare for the next report? So what are your projections?
No, thank you so much, Atolu. So the outlook for me would be, we've seen a 2.3 or so% year-on-year growth on the global numbers. I think the numbers for Africa will start getting better. You know, I think South Africa is still a big dominant player, but we would increasingly see the likes of Kenya, Nigeria, Egypt, Algeria also start skyrocketing in the number. We'll probably see more gamers, you know, joining the gaming community. We're going to have a lot more Gen Alphas start redefining, you know, what's happening in the space. And I won't rule out the Gen AI effect on games. I mean, we had the open source build ChatGPT, and then shortly after, DeepSeek comes to disrupt that. And we're seeing that you can start just looking at how you build. Programming is actually a lot more easier today, and I think those would also impact animation and gaming, and those will actually help propel the innovation in gaming.
And the entire tech space in its entirety, with all 100%. Of the geopolitical issues, what are you seeing?
So the digital war, I think is something that I don't want to put my money on here, but I'd say I think China does have a good chance. If I look at the fact that they are not about sanctions, you know, they've continued to sort of just do business with the rest of the world. You know, and I hope that the US would learn some lessons from just, you know, if it's not rough, you know, don't create the turbulence around it. You know, just allow sleeping dogs lie, do business with the rest of the world seamlessly. You know, don't bring the sanctions in. You know, just allow us coexist peacefully. Peacefully, right? Yeah.
Well, it's a good one. I've been speaking to Mr. Lawrence Amadi, who's a partner tech advisory, KPMG. Thank you so very much for coming on the program. It's good to have you. Hope to see you again soon.
By God's grace.
All right, then.